Hey guys, Business Development Manager Zach Tuhurst here, and today we're visiting 7 Clay, and with us is Josh Sprague. How's it going, Josh?
That's me. Doing very well.
Yeah, I got your name right?
You did. Good success.
Hey, that's the first hurdle of the video.
It is.
You just gave us a tour of your shop. Now we're going to remake it on camera so we can share all your trade secrets, because you are doing things a little bit different.
Sure.
And what I really like about 7 Clay, you know, what we've learned in the past hour being here is quality, quality, quality.
Yep.
I mean, in our industry, it always goes quality, service, price.
Yeah.
If your customer's primarily worried about price, they're the most difficult to work with, and you're in the business to make some money.
Sure.
So what I really want to do is check out your shop, you know, and talk about, again, how you guys take that quality, you know, to the next level. And, you know, some of us pride ourselves in being the cheapest. Some of us pride ourselves being the, you know, the best quality. What I've always seen that you don't want to do is kind of get in between the two.
Right.
You either try to be the cheapest, or you try to be the best. And you guys, again, doing a little differently. So let's go check out your shop.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, I'd love to have you.
All right, Josh, what room are we in?
All right, so we're in what used to be my office, and now it is the sewing room because, well, I don't have an office here anymore. But so we started 7 Clay as a result of our sporting goods business, which we're making backpacks. And we still do. We have that thriving and going well for a business named Orange Mud. But as a result of Orange Mud, we were used to having really good high-end sewing machines. Like you see this King Max over here, it's programmable, and we had all kinds of other different machines. After starting our embroidery business out of frustration with outsourcing to local businesses for some of our other work, we fortunately knew sewing well, and we took that knowledge and rolled it into custom hats, beanies, shirts, and everything. So we have leather patch hat machine over here dedicated just to sewing leather. We've got our Juki in the corner over here dedicated to, well, it's not dedicated to anything, but it runs beanies, basically a lot of woven patches is what we're constantly sewing onto these hats. We use post beds, which are critical for sewing patches onto to hats. You know, we use a lot of woven patches, a lot of embroidered patches, and that's where these two here machines are imperative, because without that, you can't, on a flatbed machine, you can't lay the hat flat in order to be able to sew it well. So, but we found by buying the best equipment in each representative segment in the sewing piece, we're able to produce the highest quality product consistently, time and time again.
Josh, I mean, we all know that there's a lot of heat applied patches that are out there now. This, you can clearly tell, is not a heat applied patch,
right,
and the quality is just nicer. I mean, it's a beautiful, this is what you would call a retail product.
Right.
You know, we often think retail pricing, but we don't think of like retail quality.
Right.
And that is the retail quality that a lot of, you know, customers are really wanting.
Sure.
And I've never been in, like you said it perfectly, I've got a couple embroidery machines in my shop. Sewing machines are scary to most of us.
Sure.
I mean, this is a very unique skill set, and the only time we've actually ever seen this many machines at a shop is when we went to a cut and sew shop.
Yeah.
And just like yours is here, I had no idea that you need so many different types of machines for like that one specific thing to do. And they aren't cheap.
Yeah. No, yeah, none of them are cheap. Even this guy, I think, was, I want to say $5,000. You know, I mean, 5,000 in relation to embroidery machines, not much. But when you're buying it and you're like, oh God, am I really going to spend that much money just to sew patches on hats? But like this machine, it auto trims. So when you start, you don't have to, cut any loose threads. When you finish, you don't have to cut any loose threads. You finish and it's tight. Now you're going to have to, you'll have a teeny little piece you may have to trim afterwards, which will finish and clean up. But it makes all the difference in the world. But yeah, having the right sewing machines, like we used to have a whole bunch more, and we started to just outgrow this space. And as a consequence, we got rid of anything that wasn't just the best and bought the best. And then this way, everything works. Like these things are tanks. It's hard to kill them.
Yep.
But like you said, like this machine is generally running a 60, Tech 70 thread, heavier weight thread than embroidery machines typically do. In this case, we actually have some 40 weight on there, but generally it's running your heavier threads. Where this one specializes in your lighter weight threads, which looks cleaner sewing a woven patch, especially the side of a hat. This one sews up to like a 300 plus thread, but we almost sell with this rope when we're sewing leather patch hats. So yeah, everything is kind of its own little animal, and this one's just good for some of the more delicate, tedious work sometimes. So we run into that, and then we customize a lot of. We do get some of them oddballs, whether it's my other business or even in this one, people are like, hey, can you customize, these whatever apparel or this bag or whatever. And so we're always pulling off the wall from whatever it is to customize various other pieces of apparel and accessories.
So to have that premium quality, first you have to have the right equipment.
Yep.
I mean, if you don't have the right equipment, it's going to be very difficult to
Yeah.
put out there. Then you have to have the right skilled team members
Sure.
to be able to take the pride to deliver that. And then, just again, I would say your leadership and your vision is what's really important, because
Sure.
not everybody is worried about profit is their number one thing, and they don't think about quality.
Yep.
And quality leads to more profit. Really.
Yeah.
When
No,
we charge more, you get that repeat business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. And again, this is truly private labeling.
Yeah.
The brand. I mean, you took a hat. I've got that backwards, but with no logo or anything on it. Now it has been branded.
Yep.
And I even see you have a nice silicone PVC patch there.
Exactly.
And so you guys are doing, a little bit of everything. It's almost like you're a fashion business.
We do a lot of work in the space. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, ultimately when it comes to quality, we'll throw things away if they're not good. And it does hurt sometimes, but fortunately everybody here, we all operate in the same mode where it's not like we have to oversee people much. I mean, people know like, hey, if that's crooked, take it off and refix it, and if you can't, throw it away. And it sucks because a lot of these hats we work with, they're expensive hats. We're not using we do work with some of the cheaper hats, but we mostly work with, Richardson, Outdoor Cab and Auto and KB, all these brands. But a lot of premium hats, I mean, you don't want to sell a bad one, and because it's that one bad one that makes that good customer of yours all of a sudden hate you. So we don't lose customers for that reason.
Awesome. Well, Josh, let's go actually check out the embroidery equipment.
Let's do it. Sounds good.
All right, Josh, when your main production space, how big is the facility?
Yeah, so we have a 3,300 square foot space, which works great for us. We end up spray foaming the whole thing all the way around, painted it, AC'd the shop. This way, everyone is comfortable all the time. I'm not gonna say it doesn't get up to 83 or something out here in the summer, and some people may not be happy with me, but we have big fans all over just in case. We try, but ultimately it's a big metal building. But yeah, so essentially we have the front office, sewing, embroidery, lasers, heat press, cleanup, and but I intentionally laid this U-shaped channel out, so we wanted when people come into the shop to see the impressiveness of the embroidery machines. We love the embroidery machines. It's just it is something that, in my opinion, in this space, it's one of the areas you can truly shine from having a quality machine, quality people, and then, of course, making sure everything is perfectly optimized to where our digitization is perfect. So every time that people come in, this is usually the piece they like to see the most. So and the lasers. Lasers are always cool, too.
But like you said, again, just like any process, there's several steps that have got to be in line. First starts with artwork being properly digitized. You get what you pay for when it comes to digitizing. I've never liked going the cheap route with that.
Yep.
Quality machines. I see you have Bairden.
Yep.
Everybody loves Bairden machines.
Sure.
Bairden, Tajima, Happy Japan. There's several that are really high quality, but again, get what you pay for.
Yeah.
I see Hotronics heat presses. I see an Anatol screen print machine. So when it comes to embroidery though, I see that you're doing hats here, flats back there, and then what are you doing actually on these WSF?
Yeah, so patches over here is what is generally running. Basically, hats are always on this machine. I don't think we've ever not run hats there. But the back two, or the back one and the side, it's always either patches or some other sort of flat work, unless we're just overloaded, then we'll switch that back machine to hats. But with Bairden's, for us, we found the quality on hats is just unparalleled by any other machine. And so we don't ever run anything hat-wise on any machine besides a Bairden. But yeah, we use, and you'll see here on the shop, we use magnetic hoops, which we're big fans of for embroidery. It's just like we started that way. When I see people that hoop with regular hoops, I think it's crazy. So if you have regular hoops, seriously throw them away. Like
Mighty Hoop.
yeah,
Hoop Master.
they're awesome.
And the placement is so much easier.
It's perfect every time. It's easier on your staff. It's easier for everything.
Everything.
And so it allows us to do things that we couldn't otherwise. I mean, we bought every friggin' hoop out there. I mean, it is an investment. I don't even want to think about how much money I've spent on Mighty Hoops, but it's a lot.
I know a shop who's got a couple Bairdens, and their employee refused to use the magnetic hoops, and I was in there and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I bet I could get rid of these for you, because they are expensive.
Yeah.
They're worth every penny, guys.
They are.
Every penny.
They are. And we bought one China one once, and it didn't look good, and so we just stick with Mighty Hoops. They're great. They are expensive, but from the efficiency side, honestly, it's a game changer.
So one thing that makes your shop different than most shops that we tour is the fact that you guys are making all or most of your patches in-house, right?
Right.
So I know the embroidery machines are kind of loud, guys, but I really want to show you how Josh here is making some patches. So explain to us, Josh, what we got going on here.
Yeah, so with patches, and we've ran them in all sorts of different ways. In this case, we're running one down here on the end, but why this head isn't running. But yeah, with patches, we end up using a vinyl material. We laser cut out our twill, we put down a track line, and then we go in and we put down our twill on top of that with a peel and stick adhesive, and then we finish them out complete. And the reason why we do that is that, when we kind of started doing this business, we'd use a hot gun or scissors, and after running on your normal twill or a felt or whatever, we would cut them out, but you'll end up seeing the black from the twill or black from the felt or the white. And if you're doing, say, a red patch with a red border or a green patch, all of a sudden you see that black or the white popping through, and it just doesn't look very clean. Where this, we pop them out once we're done. Everything is nice and tight. Precision is always dead on. There's no mismatch with borders. There's no worries of cutting a loose thread that you would with a hot knife or scissors. And then once that's done, we just pop them out of there and heat press them to the hats after putting some adhesive on, and then we'll sew them too. Sometimes we sew them, sometimes we don't. Depends on the customer, depends on the type of hat. When it comes to hats, we find with cotton we can heat press. Nylons you can heat press, but wools you can't. You've got to sew. Hence why we have all those machines up front.
You know what it feels like? It feels like a plastic shower curtain.
Yeah.
It's essentially what you're sewing onto.
I've seen people in various groups saying that they use couch protectors and all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah, we buy a big, again, it's a nice part of being in the textile industry with my other business is that we're already used to buying rolls of fabric. So we just went out, and once we figured this process, we'd buy rolls of fabric and we buy just rolls of vinyl, and yeah, it's a game changer.
You're one of those guys where you're like, I want to figure out how they do that.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch them how it's made, go into Facebook groups.
We have.
And then, and if they tell me it's still not possible,
then
I'm
we
still
do it
going to
anyway.
find a way.
Yeah, we have. And then it's tough. You'll finding resources like we were talking about earlier today. You always got to be careful what you learn in the Facebook groups. We see people saying you got to steam Richardson 112s and all kinds of weird stuff. And
sorry, Josh,
you don't
I'm going to get us away from these embroidery machines. So something else you said there that I really like, the Facebook groups and so forth. Facebook's a great learning.
It's an awesome tool.
It's a great tool. Josh, you're going to attend the Shirt Lab Tribe event with us this weekend. Highly suggest you guys check out Shirt Lab Tribe. DecoNetwork just started being a sponsor. It's amazing what I learned there. And before you know it, there's somebody in that group that's like, I want to get into patches. How do you do it? Mm-hmm. And somebody like Josh would typically be on that group and is like, hey, you can get this shower curtain stuff, and here's how you do it. And those are the little things. What I love about our industry, Josh, is that nobody looks at each other like they're enemies.
Yeah.
We're all there to help each other when we need.
Sure.
And what I like about what you did, though, everybody kept letting you down.
Yeah.
You were outsourcing most of this work, and that's what got you into the industry, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, why can't they just take some more pride in the process? So,
the local vendors we were using were so terrible that we, out of frustration, bought our first machine. And then now look at what everything has evolved to. We didn't need another business. It's running one company is hard enough. started in a second was borderline insanity. And we didn't, at the time, think it would evolve to what it is. But we just thought we'd be mostly doing our other product for Orange Mud. And then, you know, working with the races that we sponsor and all this other stuff. And we do. But then it turned into a whole monster where, you know, we're big in e-com. We work with all sorts of brands and contractors and everything under the sun. So yeah.
And it's pretty common. How you got in the industry, the cliche one I hear.
Yeah.
I have my own music band, and I needed shirts, and the guy dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do it myself. So
Sure.
it's actually kind of pretty common. Sadly, in our industry, you keep getting let down,
Yeah.
and you decide, I can do it.
you're out.
Then I'm going to do
Yep.
it. So
No, I agree.
awesome here, Josh. Let's go check out the rest of your shop.
Sounds good.
All right, Josh, where are we at in your shop?
So yeah, we're in the quality control piece, which is one of the most important parts of our business, in my opinion. Everything that comes out of embroidery or screen print or laser or anywhere for that matter here goes through QC to have the final checks to make sure it's all good. As always, we have Deco as kind of a critical piece to our organization. It helps from the quote stage to the order stage through going into production. Then even with each production stage, once the order's in, we mark it as, well, it comes in as initial order, and then Charlie back here, he'll kick it into the order stage once it's ordered, and then it goes into embroidery stage once it's kit ready first, and then embroidery once it's embroidered, and then once it goes over to QC, it gets moved to the QC stage, in which again we have a workstation in each area just a bit of document the movement of each one of these. So yeah, you can see how we broke all that out.
And you've also been using production status.
Yeah, in production status.
Each one of these, stations can actually be broken down into the steps.
Exactly.
So it's not, are we working on the job or not?
Yeah.
Where is it at in the process? And at this stage again, we're at the quality control. I love these bags. You just told us off camera, you'd go to Japan for this. You know what I mean? That's what Josh is like, challenge me, and I'm gonna figure out a way. I'm gonna go, if I can't do it in the States, I'll go overseas.
Yep.
And this is really nice. And even, I saw earlier when we were in the shop, every little extra thread in a hat is trimmed. I mean,
everything.
It's amazing.
Trimmed and burns. We almost always burn every thread in addition. Trimming gets us right up tight. And sometimes we're able to only do that, but you'll see we buy a lot of frickin' butane. So
got some pyros in the room.
We have butane everywhere around here. But yeah, so I mean, as these towels come off the machine, this is a changing towel and seat cover. So, we use a solvay on the top. So once it comes over here, we'll peel all the solvay off. We'll steam it to remove the solvay. And this is what, or the solvay, what it does is it helps to allow us to get a really nice clean stitch. And this is all water soluble. So you put that steam on there and it just evaporates. And then of course on the back side of the towel, we still have the backing on here. And we get them generally pretty much cleaned up at the embroidery machine, but at the QC stage, she's gonna go through and make it even tighter. But even you can see, we have, on our machines, we're pretty nerdy. We've got pretty dang tight tension, or optimum tension. It's basically textbook tension that you see just at a random piece we're grabbing off the floor here. But yeah, as you'll see though, the threads are real tight, but there's probably still a loose thread in there somewhere. This hasn't been cleaned up yet. But once it's cleaned up, then she's repackaging it in this case and putting it back in the bag. And then once it's totally done, we'll case seal it back up. We'll move it back over to shipping. We'll mark it stage to shipping here. And then that way shipping will know when they come in tomorrow, aside from having a big box in front of them and what needs to go out, they'll know that is the shipping piece that needs to go out. But yeah, we always keep this area nice and clean. It's not like we don't have mounds of stuff here, and sometimes the QC side will take over a lot more areas than this. But we try to keep that, as much as we can, the one-piece flow going through here. Maybe we'll have two jobs going at the same time just to have good line clearance and not get errors and mixing one job with another. It's not something common in this space, but we do try to practice that.
It's not always easy for that mom and pop shop with just a couple people to have that quality control person.
Right.
But it's a stage in the process, but having one person that's the dedicated job, I feel like it's a better eye.
Yeah.
Versus the same person who sews doing the quality control, they're kind of like scrambled a little bit, and they may not be able to do it. So, love your method of the madness.
You won't always see things because, you know, like say on my side and our sales team, you know, we see one thing because we work with the customer, we work with the art, we put it into Deco as a quote, turn it into an order, and then it gets to production, and then Charlie will be like, well, hey, this isn't going to work. Or where's the I in Mississippi? And I'm like, oh shit, we missed that, you know. Or Jen will set it up in embroidery, and she's like, you know, we can't stitch that small. I was like, oh man, every once in a while we miss those type of things. But let's say it's a phase that she got it in here and she ran it, and then all of a sudden it gets to QC. But the nice part of having a different set of eyes look at it is they're like, hey, this isn't spelled right. I mean, it could be something simple, you know, but screen printing, same thing. Things will come over here and, hey, you know what? We got some ink on our hands. It happens. And all of a sudden we touched a part of a shirt, we touched the knob on the machine, touched the side of the shirt, pulling off, and they'll find it. When they pull the shirt up in QC, they look for ink. I mean, it's a simple step, but it's something that I don't want to do if I'm back there running the machines. And it's not that I don't try, it's just you're going quick. And so by having a secondary step that is no exceptions, is detail, they slow down and they find it. So like I said, it's pretty rare anybody's ever going to find a defect coming out of our shop.
You guys catch it first.
It's pretty rare. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but it's pretty rare. And if we do, we own it and we replace it, refund it, whatever immediately. And it's usually like, it's always something weird. You know, it's running 1,000 hats and maybe a needle broke or something and we missed something on one stitch. It's usually something like that if there's something. So needle and haystacks can happen and they will, but we try to at least minimize all steps that we can. Sometimes honestly in shipping, they'll see things they're like, hey, this is crooked. And we're like, oh man. So I mean, we have a lot of different people that see a job. That's where anytime something actually gets out of here, if it's off, it's like, it's a lot of times we question it because we use alignment tools. Say if we're running polos, you know, we align everything to ensure the math is right before we run it. I mean, there's just so many different pieces that we do and so many checks that it's a surprise if there's something off. And usually when we push back to the customer, like, hey, double check it, like put on that shirt or wear your hat, you know, whatever it may be. Usually they're like, oh no, you're right, it's all good. You know?
And I'm sure Deco also catches some of those because that's the point of putting together a quote with the proof.
Right.
You know, you drop the artwork on there, and if I want it on the other side of the hat.
Yeah.
Well, look.
Right.
This is what you approved.
Yeah, this is where it's at. Yep.
So,
no, and we definitely, it is the nice part. I mean, we often render things in kind of that pre-negotiation phase in Adobe Illustrator, and we'll send that over. And then once we're ready, they're like, okay, cool, I want X, X, and X. Then we go in and we build everything out in Deco. We upload everything to where all the art is going to be perfect. And I like the sizing in there. Now, the sizing may not be 100% perfect, and we tell people that. Like, hey, Deco may show it's at 2 inches, but we may run it at 1.9. You know, there's some things we're going to tweak. But the appearance is what I always impress upon people. The appearance is what you're looking for. I don't care if it says it's going to be 10 inches tall. It's going to look like that, you know. And that's where we always try to impress upon people that, because ultimately, I mean, there's so many times. Yesterday, I messaged Charlie back here like, hey, can you cross-check? I wasn't working at the shop, and I had a new woven patch we're working on, and I thought it was going to be fine at 2 inches, but it was so wide. Going on a 168, we needed to drop it to 1.8. So he printed it off, did a little gut check, and we find those type of things where, again, it may look right, but it still comes down to we got to make sure we catch those things in the shop. And there's, I mean, it happens all the time. So, but yeah, Deco is great, obviously, for ensuring we at least communicate with the customer, like, that's what it looked like, that's what we're going to make sure. You're cool with that? Cool. We're going to make it look like that.
Awesome. Well, Josh, I'm interested to talk about laser.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, where are we at?
All right, so we are on our CO2 lasers. So we initially bought our first laser, which is this guy here, this 60 watt, to really cut twill to make custom patches. And shortly after buying that, we realized, hey, we can be really good at leather. And not only from there, we had a customer, actually the same customer we ran our first leather patch for. He was like, hey, can you make me 120 coffee mugs? I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, probably.
That's Josh mentality.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, well, it took me a bit to get, the rotaries in lasers can be extremely problematic. And I definitely spent some many 2 or 3 a.m. nights here. But next thing you know, we got that optimized, and we end up rebuilding all these machines. We built we bought them kind of canned, and then we put in all of our own boards and upgraded a lot of stuff. So it's been pretty cool. But like on our CO2 over here, it's running some 20-ounce coffee mugs currently. This one over here, we're running some leather patches. We work with a lot of veg tan leather. Unlike many shops that you'll see are using
faux leather?
Yeah, faux leather. And we will run faux only when requested. And it's usually because we have somebody that wants maybe a gray leather and maybe to be silver underneath or gold. And those look cool. And in certain applications, it looks great. But we almost exclusively work with veg tan leather. We do stock black and brown, and like we do this thin leather when we're doing fold over tags on beanies, which is really cool. Because we'll fold them over and we'll rivet them or we'll sew them. But generally, it's this leather here, and it looks pretty white. Well, because it is. I mean, it's naturally tanned, so there's no harsh chemicals in here that can hurt anybody in the shop from the outgassing. You basically have two types of leather, chrome tan and veg tan, and we use only veg tan with lasers. Well, after this is done, we have a process. It's a two-step process where we go and we clean off all the engraving off of it, or all the dust off of it. And then from here, we're going to take it and we're going to fire up the air compressor and we're going to spray it with a sealant that's going to make sure it's going to last a long time and look really clean. And then the really cool part about that is it actually changes from this white color that you see to it's going to.
Oh wow!
It's going to. I mean, it's a huge change once you put the oil on it. And this is just
you make mouse pads.
Yeah, it is a mouse pad. So, but yeah, the lasers are really cool. Shine your camera in there. I always try to keep people careful from, in theory,
staring at the
laser light, but the camera's safe to look at it. But yeah, so lasers have been honestly a game changer in our business. We have a third laser that I'm Frankensteining at home right now. I kept meaning to do it here, but I never can get 2 seconds to my own. But we're actually taking a 40 watt, your typical like hobby laser, and we spent about $1,500 on all pro grade stuff to rebuild it. And the whole goal is it's been a little bit of a long-term goal at this point, but the goal is we want to put a rack right here where we can do multiple mugs in these smaller boxes. Because the problem is you're running a 20-ounce coffee mug on a giant laser, but it's kind of part of the process, to do mugs. So it's like right here coming off the machine, it looks kind of like a matte finish, but what we do is we take this up front after it's done and we'll clean it off obviously, but we put this special cleaner on it that brings it to super polish, so it's back to this. But that's just the innate piece that happens after you burn off the powder coated material. But yeah, mugs are huge for us. Again, cutting patches, adhesive. I mean, every single patch that we run through here, whether it's woven patches, embroidered patches, PVC patches, whatever, we're cutting adhesive on rolls in these machines that we're putting onto the back of the patch, and then we're again putting them onto the hat. So, so all this leather here, same thing. This doesn't have, it doesn't have the adhesive on it yet, but it will after we get this all done.
Wow.
So, yeah, the lasers are a tremendous resource to the shop. Here's an example of a run hat that we're doing. So it's a woven patch. It's laser cut, which is pretty cool. We did this purposely to not have a border on the outside. So a lot of times we embroider a border on the outside of it in manufacturing, but we like doing this sometimes for a really, really clean look. So this is going on the Richardson Telekium hat, and it's for a bunch of people doing a 4x48 run. And so from here, we're going to put a specialized adhesive on the back, and then we're going to heat press it to the hat on the Stahl's presses over there, and then we'll take it into sewing, and we'll sew a little perimeter all around the outside. And again, by having the right machines, it's pretty easy to hold a really tight window on that. Now you'll find with lasers, we often, like with these here, and again, these haven't been cleaned yet, so even like the burn marks you see, that won't be there. Once you clean this off and put an oil on there, it's all back to looking awesome. But we do put a little trace line on here, and this is to give guidance when we're sewing in the big rope thread that we use, that 207 thread. And so as we go and sew through there, it just allows it to be exactly dead on. We can get pretty dang accurate without it, but we can do it with laser. It costs us an extra 10 seconds, so who really cares?
Yeah.
So
no, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And not to be redundant, but another workstation, another business hub pulled up, and I like, hey, we're staged here, order worksheets, printed out on the box, ready to go. So when
Exactly.
your guy comes over, he knows what he's doing, and then by the time this gets over to shipping,
Yep, it's all
it doesn't
done.
need to be,
Yeah,
you know? Put
Yeah.
this on the minutes of received is
Yeah.
what I recommend.
exactly.
Really cool section of the shop. Josh, still got more to talk about. Let's
All
go
right,
check it out.
Yeah.
Hi, Josh. We're in your screen printing department, and you're doing it differently. Tell us
Yeah.
how you're actually doing screen printing. Because,
Sure.
I mean, I know what this is. Most of our viewers probably don't.
Yeah, yeah. So we used to outsource our screen printing. You know, again, everything started really from as a byproduct from our other business, but we hit a point where we were frustrated with quality. We wanted to see maximum detail. We wanted to make sure, you know, if it's multicolors, we're not seeing any bleed over or anything. And it's kind of nice sometimes not knowing what you're doing going into it, because you can start fresh and come into it with a fresh set of eyes rather than having maybe an industry skew. And I'm not saying that's bad, but in my case, I didn't have it, so I had to work. I had to work with what I got. So we just happened to be at a trade show, and we ran into these guys from Express Screen, and I love the concept because as we were fighting with space in our facility, we weren't going to have to build a clean-out booth, and I was a pretty big fan of that alone.
Oh, yeah.
And just to not have to deal with emulsion and everything, I thought, man, this is pretty cool. So we have this fancy, it's called the Rezo QS2536 from Express Screen in the corner. Basically, we take our vector art and print directly to it, print it to a film, which we come over here, and you see that in this station, we basically take a roll. This is your screen mesh material. So we roll this out onto this steel frame. It's got these tension bars in it. So yeah, you set all 4 bars in, and then once they're in there, you trim off the excess in the back so you're not wasting hardly any material. Tighten them down with a screwdriver. We tape up around the edges just so we don't have any ink leaking out anywhere. It makes it easier to clean up. And then once that's done, we take it over here into the machine, and we load it in this guy.
And this is essentially a computer to screen,
Yeah.
if you think about it,
Yeah.
for Express Screen.
Yeah,
So
it's just a printer.
So instead of, the old traditional way of screen printing, we have different screens with different amounts
Yeah.
of mesh counts.
Sure.
And you have to select the right mesh count based on the detail, the color of the ink, the type of the ink. There's a lot of variables to get right.
Yep.
Then you got to coat it with emulsion. You got to put the right amount of emulsion down.
Sure.
You got to have that dry. Now you got to expose it and develop it. Well, you better expose it for the right amount of time based on how much emulsion is on there, the type of emulsion, the age of the emulsion, the mesh. It's one variable after another. And I do it in my shop. I kind of have to with the way we screen print.
Sure.
Express Screen is like, screw the screen room, screw the clean out room.
Yep.
We're going to simplify the process in that we're going to give you, essentially, you're going to stretch the screen right before you need.
Yep.
You're going to take that, bring it over to here. You have a computer to screen. And in a way, you are printing your positive.
Yeah,
Right on
100%.
there. I mean, it's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
You're making a stencil a very different way.
Yep.
And for those who don't know what this is red in the screen print world means Anatol. Anatol is one of the leaders. I mean, M&R is at the very top, Rock's up there. Anatol is also very well respected, not as expensive. Something that Josh shared earlier with us, he bought this used manual, what do you have, a 6-head,
Yep.
6 station, $4,500 you said? Okay, one, this
With
thing
a
looks,
flash.
it looks brand new,
Yeah.
but two, a lot of the time you can go used with this. I would not go used with any digital print heads.
Sure.
I don't want to do that. That's scary.
Even embroidery can be scary.
Yeah, it can be. Screen printing, okay, tell me what
we've learned.
electronic here, other than this little laser alignment system, is there that could bring, no, it's steel.
Yeah, and that's where when we looked at, our whole approach to screen printing is that I do feel that the industry is at a tipping point of potential change, and especially in the lower volume stuff with DTF. I think DTF we do a ton of here, but again we buy from outside and then we just heat press it here, which is an art form in itself. But that being said, we knew we wanted this for a lot of our 1-color, 2-color, 3-color arts. We can do obviously up to 6, but a lot of our customers are ordering 1 to 3 colors. 24 to 72 shirts is a pretty big common denominator for us. And we just wanted to be able to start inexpensively rather than spending $80,000 on an automatic and buying an even bigger dryer and just having such a financial commitment when I looked at our customer base, I'm like, well, why would I do that when I can do this? And some of the people with automatics out there are gonna argue, oh, you're just so much more efficient. And I get it, but I've got a low investment cost. Let's learn. And I like to learn. Yeah. And so I thought I'd rather spend the money on this, which is expensive. But to me, like when I looked at, I think it was 28,000, I don't know, it's close, somewhere in the $28,000 range or something. But the reality is this basically bypasses some of our learning steps. Or I knew it would at least shortcut our process to focus on the art of screen printing rather than art of making a screen.
That is the real art, really.
And it really
Most
is.
Of the time in traditional.
Yeah, and I see all kinds of people struggle with it, and I was like, well, I'm not going to have that struggle. So, I mean, it really is pretty dang simple. Upload the art in Illustrator, print it. I mean, it's been pretty dang easy. Line and art and everything. Those are all little pieces of screen printing that can be a pain in the butt. But this has been for us a phenomenal tool, and so much that we've only had this for, I mean, it's 7 or 8 months now, and I mean we have turned, I don't know, 10, 20,000 shirts through here. And again, we do mostly 24 to 72 piece orders.
Manual.
So. Yeah, it's all manual.
But that's actually a great point, though.
Yeah.
You don't want to really throw a 24-piece order on an auto. I mean, that's not what that auto was really designed
and
to do.
Especially in one color art, man, you can fly.
Yeah, and I don't like to print more in one color. And here's the other thing: digital print heads can't print, for example. I mean, some things it can do, but metallic, glow in the dark. So some of the specialty inks is where screen print is becoming, at least in the manual world, one color.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm just going to DTF.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just too easy.
Yeah.
It
really is, and it looks great.
I mean, it is. Now, something else that I want everybody to know. So the computer to screen setup for Express Screen, this will work on an Anatol Auto. And I've seen them at the trade show.
Sure.
So that's what's also
I think any
nice.
auto. I mean, they make different frame sizes.
Not every auto.
No.
Not every, because it's I've spoken with them a little bit, and I better make sure because things change. Always.
Oh yeah, no, I know they make them for other machines besides Anatol.
But Anatols work really well with it. I do know. I've seen them at the shop. So. But it's really, how long does it take to make a screen here?
About 2 minutes.
So 2 minutes, and you could have already had a pre-stretch.
Yeah.
So you could be on press within 5 minutes
it's crazy.
For a job.
So yeah, I mean, you can see, like, we printed this out right before we shot the video, and man, it's just super easy. And then the nice part is, once this is done, all we're gonna do is we're just gonna rip the tape off, and I'm gonna take a razor blade, and I'm just gonna cut the film out, throw it in the trash, so we don't have to use any harsh chemicals too, which was a nice plus here in the shop. Is we just throw that screen in the trash and replace it with the new film. You just go in the back and you pop out these little steel bars, pull the extra little film that won't have any ink on it, so it's nice and clean, and then you just load up your next screen and get them going.
And Josh, you can hold a lot of detail, right? And there's no having to guess what mesh count to use and so forth.
Yeah, and I think they have 3 different meshes. We have tested all 3 of them, but there's the main screen our main mesh that we use. We've used it on 99.9% of jobs, and it just works. And again, the resolution is off the charts. We've done just cool like spider web type of designs that is just awesome, and not what we've seen from shops we used to outsource to. So this has been a really, really cool tool, and we'll come in here on we had, I don't know, I think it was Mother's Day weekend, or that was before Christmas is what it was, and I made a bunch of random stuff for my family, but it was something that I had some screens already made up. I came and printed them off real quick. While one was printing, I'd come and screen print a couple shirts, and then I'd print another, screen print a couple shirts. And it's easy, because again, the film costs about $6. That's the cost you're in. So the other, money you're really into is your own labor, which is setting it up and lining it up, and
ink's practically free.
Whatever. Yeah,
it's so cheap.
Yeah, it's inexpensive. So it's really been something that on our side, it's been neat to be able to just prototype things. We'll go and Like the other day, we made a bunch of 7 clay shirts for the shop, and we did all kind. We had 4, 5, 7 clay screens, and we just ran all kinds of inks. And Mariana, one of our sewers, she came in and she put layers of different colors of ink, and we had a rainbow shirt from just one press, which was pretty cool. So props to her for the creativity. But yeah, like I said, we just love it because it's simple, clean, and again, at the end of the day, cut that film out, throw it in the trash, no harsh chemicals, move on.
Well, here we're on Friday, and over there we can see the staff's doing all the cleaning.
Yep.
You know, clean shop, very important.
Sure.
Your shop is extremely clean,
Yep.
which typically kind of happens when we come visit. You kind of know, hey.
Yeah.
But, you
Yeah,
know,
no, but
especially
it's
in
always
this
like
area,
this.
because
Yeah.
before you know it, you touch, you get the ink, and then
Yeah.
it gets on there, and then it gets there, and it's just transferring.
Yep.
The other thing I really like what you got going on here, this lighting.
Yeah.
Not only can I see, but I also don't feel depressed.
Right.
Because those are two, you need
Yeah.
both of those
Right.
things. I mean,
You do.
it's really good. And I can't state that enough, how
Yeah.
important lighting is for
Yep.
employees. You know,
Yeah.
you don't
Well,
want
and there's
to
a
feel
lot
like
of time.
dungeon.
You know, there's obviously making people happy is number one, and then number two is it's just wasted time. You know, even back here for me, like I need to drop another light back here, and I've got my redneck light over here in the corner, but it's been working so far. But I need to put another LED right here. Initially, when I laid out this area, which is why we have one over at least this workstation, which crosses in here decent. But I thought I was going to have this laid out different, but any time that we find that if you're squinting trying to do work, A, you're not going to have the same quality because you probably can't
Yep.
see a mistake. You might not catch it soon enough. And then B, you're squinting, you're going to get a headache, you're going to have a bad day, and then you're not going to work efficiently. So yeah, we have constantly either put in lights or moved lights, and we're not shy. If we need a new one, we just buck up, call electrician, get it done, please, and then move on. So, but yeah, they're all LEDs, and man, to have the old school yellow lights it'd be painful.
Another thing I like that you did, though, because Josh is kind of similar in a way. The more I'm around Josh, I'm like, man, I want to be Josh. So, Josh, I'm running my shop out of my home property. I have
Sure.
a 2,000 square foot outbuilding, totally finished. I love it, but I'm outgrowing it, and I'm going to be moving, and I don't want to keep it on my property.
Sure.
You thought about relocating your shop
Yep.
on your own property and so forth. There's an advantage. I hate leasing. I hate renting.
I
I
agree.
hate that. But there's a lot of pros.
Yep.
One, it's easier to get employees comfortable and find them, because
Sure.
when you work from your home, it's a business, but it kind of feels like more of a hobby in
Yeah.
a way. And secondly, it brings you new business,
Yep.
because you don't really want just another company always showing up to your property and so forth. And it just, again, feels like a hobby to your customers. So
Sure.
having a physical place has a lot of advantages. Even, you think about post-COVID and all of that. Yes, I mean, it does. And you can't have enough space a
Yeah.
lot of the time, can you?
No, sadly not.
We were in a shop, and they have a 100,000 square foot building. It's like, my biggest regret is not buying the one connected to it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, you got to think years ahead.
Yeah, you do.
And what is your average lease, for a building like this? What is
Like
your lease?
$4,000 a month.
$4,000
And
a
honestly,
month?
we have a ripping deal. Actually, down here it should be more in the 5 or 6. We have kind of a fluke property. We're actually not in the city of Round Rock. It's county. Even though it's city all around us, it's just a weird zoning thing. And so when we found this building, that was one of the big perks, is that since it's county, we somehow have cheaper rates.
I'm in a township, and there
Yeah.
was the advantages to that. And also, what's a normal term for a lease like this? How many years?
Usually 3 to 5 is
3
a
to 5
typical.
is what you're typically.
Yeah, most everybody's going to want, more the merrier. Of course, you get a 5-year, you might get a little bit better rates, a long term. But like for us, for example, when we signed our original lease, it was a 5-year lease, and part of that deal is, I spent, I think it was $58,000 in the inside of the shop upgrading it. Even though it's not my building, I spray foamed this whole thing, we painted the whole thing, we put in heavy AC out here in the shop, as well as build out in the front and paint and everything. And I at least got them to split the office air conditioner, or the shop air conditioner 50-50 with me. So, it cost me $58, but I got some of that kickback and some lease. But that was one of the perks that you can do by doing that.
Awesome. All right, Josh, we got to check out the last part of the shop.
Sweet. Sounds good.
All right, Josh, we're kind of at the beginning and ending stages of the orders. So what, we receive through the big door and we ship out the big door.
Exactly.
And you know, I feel like you because this is actually the exact same scale I have.
Yeah, Uline, or maybe Amazon.
So again, pretty important stage. Obviously, it's you got to check in. You know, it's amazing how many of DecoNetwork's competitors, they don't even let you check in the actual goods.
Yeah,
it's very important to kind of kick off the whole production process. You can't decorate what you don't physically have, and you got to know when it actually arrives in the shop.
Yep.
So comes in here, you receive the stock, goes through the entire production process, comes back, you create your shipping label through here. What are you using? ShipStation?
Yep.
Highly recommend ShipStation. Anybody out there?
It's great.
It's great. One, it's efficient, but two, shipping rates are really good.
They suck. Oh, well, I mean, they suck in general. They're at least better through ShipStation.
Yeah, they are better than through ShipStation.
Yeah, we've been using ShipStation for 12 years in our for our other business, and then obviously almost 5 years now with 7Clay. But yeah, I mean, really, this piece is pretty critical. When everything comes in, we have 1 to 3 different people that will inspect it to make sure the counts come in correctly. And then what's really cool is that we'll go in and say if we have a 40 line item job, we'll go in and receive per line, marking what's in. And that way we'll know, like, hey, embroidery, you can start on this, but you're not gonna be able to finish it, you know, just in case that job's coming up. And so, and we'll have that sometimes where, you know, all of a sudden, Richardson or whoever will have a hat that's out of stock for 3 months, and we're like, oh man, it sucks. Well, we at least have it marked in there that it's out of stock, and we'll put an internal note like, hey, here's the new replan date. But we know the other, you know, 300 hats are good to go. And so that is what's really cool about Deco is we can organize that, and especially when they split shipments, you know, because when we order from S&S or whoever, they may ship from 3 or 4 different warehouses depending on what we're ordering or more. And so this way we can go in and receive that partial and the next partial and the next partial and the next partial. So yeah, the shipping side's critical, obviously, to have a good organized shop, or the receiving side, but then same thing with shipping. If one thing that we do have is redundancy with counts, you know, screen printing, embroidery, laser, sublimation, heat press, whatever. So in every place is counting how many is on that job. So for us to ship out an incorrect quantity, I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen, but it's pretty rare because we have so many layers, and then shipping is doing the same thing.
Wow.
We're gonna count it.
So comes in, you count it.
Yeah.
Goes to embroidery or screen printing.
Yep.
You count it.
Yep.
Goes to quality control.
Yep.
You count it. Comes to shipping. You count it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And it's funny because I talk to a lot of shops that are like the receiving stage. In DecoNetwork, you can use barcodes. And everybody wants to just receive the whole order using a barcode. And I'm like, it's literally not possible. And why? Because it shouldn't be.
Right.
You don't assume that what S&S put in the box is completely perfect.
Right.
They're going to make mistakes, especially around the holidays. I don't know about you, but when they start bringing in all the seasonal workers and everything, that's when I see more picking problems. But wow, you are checking it at every stage.
Every stage.
And again, if you guys haven't learned from this video, Josh is all about quality. Quality, and can I do something that somebody else said is impossible? That's what he wants to do.
Every day.
Because I'll tell you what, when I hit Josh up, I was like, oh, they do patches. I saw on the website. I'm assuming they're hitting up stalls all the time.
Yeah.
No, you guys do it all.
Yeah.
And again, that's what I love about the industry. And you know, Josh, you kind of stumbled into it like a lot of us.
Yeah.
It's
a fun problem. Good stumble.
And it's a great industry to be in. It's not going anywhere. New processes are always coming out. There's plenty of orders to go around. There's a lot of different business models.
Sure.
You don't have to be the guy that just puts out the cheapest product.
Sure.
You put out the premium. That's your, you know, competitive advantage.
Yep.
That's your core competency that you're striving for. Josh, thank you so much for having us. Again, love your shop, love your setup. Everybody here is smiling. I don't know if it's just because you're here, but
no, we have
I
a good
think
crew.
I can tell that, you know, your leadership style is also the other. Again, equipment, team, but leadership. You know, you got to be, you know, an involved owner and lead the team.
Sure.
You can't just always hire and just walk away.
Yeah.
So
It'd be nice if we could, but
yeah, it would be
but,
nice.
fortunately, in all fairness, I think one of the things that we've done pretty well too, though, is that each department essentially here has kind of their own one that's in control. So the place does run pretty well without me, admittedly, which is nice. I don't have to be the ball buster of like, hey, this quality sucks. You know, if anything, sometimes they got to call me and like, hey, Josh, what do you think of this one? I'm like, that's fine, ship it. but
it's the systems in place. Though,
the systems in place, and then yeah, we've got everybody here is pretty. Each one, fortunately, is mission critical to the success. I mean, you break one off, and it's a major problem. So it's a nice part of layers, and we're not huge, but we're bigger than we were when we started, and to have the layers and people that we do, we have people to kind of bounce ideas off of and cross-check things, and it's made life a lot easier here in the shop.
All right, guys, check out 7clay.com.
Yep.
And again, like so much, I hope like this video is helpful. And again, if you're just getting started, strive for how Josh is doing it. I love this shop. We tore a lot. It's awesome, Josh. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks again.